Hello everyone, Vampire 218 here, bringing you week 1 of the UALB Pokemon Showdown Draft Battle League. I am the coach of the Ontario Almastars, and I am bringing you my first match against the San Antonio Shamans. To jump right into things, I see that he brings a Mega Lopunny, which my answer to was the Mega Slowbro. Mega Slowbro, being quite a heavy-hitting defensive tank, is able to take those returns and those high jump kicks all day and then slack off the damage, while the Mega Lopunny dies to status. Galvantula, it was somewhat scary for me, and it was the Mon I prepped most for, although I ended up deciding that my two answers for it were Medicham with a Magic Coat to bounce the webs, and an Excadrill banded with the EQ, just to get that massive damage and one-shot or pop Sash. Heatran, I wasn't too afraid of because, again, Mega Slowbro can take his fire moves, can take his steel moves all day long. Rhydon, I wasn't expecting him to bring, and even though he brought it, I was ready for it. I had the Celebi, I have the Mega Slowbro, and I have the Togekiss to answer it. Shaman, I didn't have very many answers for, and Starmie, I wasn't too afraid of because Blissey and Slowbro can wall it all day. So, to start things off, I predicted he would lead with Galvantula, so I led with Medicham, and instead, he leads with Heatran. So I'm thinking, Heatran has a balloon, I'm not going to be able to one-shot it with an EQ or the Earth Power, which I actually ran on Celebi. So I go for a fake out here, and I figure either he's going to switch, or I'm going to pop balloon. And he switches, and I do quite a good amount of damage. So he switches into Starmie, and I'm really not feeling that matchup, so I go into Celebi to make the matchup favorable. He Thunder Waves me, I don't care. I have the Natural Cure. Celebi's speed is not really an issue here. I can just switch it out and get that Natural Cure proc, and I'm pretty happy. And that's what I do. So he brings in the Heatran, and I go for a Shadow Ball here just because I'm thinking that Shadow Ball is going to do either massive damage or hit whatever. I probably should have gone for a Grass move, but he goes into Heatran, but it doesn't matter because I'm paralyzed. So he goes for a Magma Storm. I go again for a Shadow Ball because I'm actually spec'd at this point. And he misses, so I'm able to get off the Shadow Ball and pop Balloon, and that makes me pretty happy. So now that I've popped Balloon, I just switch out because I want to get that Paralyze off. I want to get into Slowbro as fast as possible so I can take those hits. He goes for another Magma Storm, and I take the hit. I don't take the hit too well. I take 20% and then the residual damage, bringing me down by a third, but I'm pretty happy still. He brings in Galvantula, and I know webs are coming at this point, and there's nothing I can do. So I had Mega'd and going for a Scald because I thought, Scald's going to do massive damage to the Heatran, or it's going to do massive damage to whatever he brings in, except for Shaman. He brings in the Galvantula. I go for the Scald. I get quite a good amount of damage. I almost get to 2/3 off, but I'm not really wanting to take an electric type move here. However, he does go for the webs. Now, what I could have done is stayed in and Scalded and got the kill, but I figured going into Excadrill is the better answer in case he went for the Volt switch, because I know he outsped me. But he does go for the Sticky Web, and it's kind of shitty for me because now my speed's going to be down, and I actually didn't bring Rapid Spin on my Excadrill this week. I brought Stealth Rocks, which was a mistake. So I EQ, I do quite a good amount of damage to Shaman because I'm banded, and doesn't really matter. I don't want to take a Grass move, so I swap into my answer of Togekiss. He goes for a Synthesis, which is predictable. He obviously predicted the switch, which makes sense, and Togekiss goes for an Air Slash. Air Slash is going to do massive damage. He switches into Heatran, does nothing. I'm not thinking that my Air Slashes are going to flinch enough to keep my Togekiss in, so I swap it out. I am Scarfed at this point, and that's important to mention because that is another reason I swapped out, because I know that I can't go for any of the other moves I brought. So I go into Slowbro, takes a fire move. It's pretty shitty because of the residual damage, but whatever. I know he's going to swap out at this point, so I go for a Slack Off. He doesn't swap out, goes for a Toxic, misses, and I take more residual damage, but I'm able to bring myself up to the point where I can live. So, I go for a Scald here, because I figure he tried to go for the Toxic once, he might go for it again. He switches into Shaman, pretty shitty, I get very little damage on it. Shaman gets the leftovers heal, whatever. I switch into my Togekiss. Togekiss is my answer, takes a Seed Flare, it's okay, takes about a quarter, and I go for a Aura Sphere. And the reason I go for Aura Sphere here is because I'm predicting him to bring in the Heatran. So Heatran would have probably died to the Aura Sphere at that point because I'm Scarfed and I'm max special attack. His Heatran's not at full. He brings in the Starmie, which sucks because it resists, and I'm forced to then switch into my Celebi. Celebi again gets paralyzed, and again I could care less because I can just swap it out and get the natural cure. He brings in the Heatran, and again I'm paralyzed, so I can't do anything. Natural cure activates because I switch out into my Mega Slowbro. And it's very stally like this for quite a while, where it's a big swap because we're just swapping the Mons and the resistances. So he actually hits the Toxic here, and that's really shitty for me because, again, I'm predicting him to swap out, but I get Toxic, so I'm taking quite a bit of residual damage at this point. He taunts me thinking I'm probably going to go for another Slack Off, but I go for the Scald, and I bring him quite low, which is really good for me because I know Heatran can't really have any recovery. He could do some really weird wish passing, but he doesn't. And I go for another Scald because I am taunted, and Psychic I didn't think would do anything. So he goes for a double switch here and actually fakes me out because I go for a switch into Celebi. Because I think, well, I need to switch into Celebi. But because he tricked me, I end up having to double switch into the Blissey. Blissey takes the Magma Storm, and Blissey doesn't care. It's a Blissey. It's got like 700 health. He taunts me so that I don't use any shenanigans, but I just actually go for the Seismic Toss because I know at this point Seismic Toss is going to either kill or do 100 damage, and that's good to anything. I'm taunted, so that gives a free switch into Lopunny because I can't status it. He Megas and goes for the Fake Out. Doesn't even go for the Fake Out. I thought he would go for the Fake Out for the free damage, but no, he goes for the Return, and it does massive damage to the Togekiss. And then he's forced to switch out because he knows the Air Slash is just going to annihilate. So I go for Air Slash, I hit the Starmie, it connects, however, I then die, and it sucks, because now I've lost one of my main answers to the Mega Lopunny. So I bring in Celebi, and I take a Scald. It's a critical, but I don't care. I get burned. And again, I don't care, because I Heal Bell, getting rid of that Toxic on the Mega Slowbro. I bring in my Blissey again, because it can take Scalds all day. And I'm wanting to just get as much status off on his team as possible. He brings in a Rhydon. I go for Seismic Toss because I know, again, I can get a kill or I can just do massive damage. I take a Stone Edge, and because it's a critical, I take way too much damage. I am able to get the Toxic off, though. So he takes a little bit of Toxic damage, and I go for a Protect because I'm not really sure what he's going to go for here. I want to scout a little bit. Goes for an EQ, and Protect lets me get just above the point I needed to live. I believe it was a Stone Edge. I go into my Mega Slowbro because I knew that it could live an EQ barely, and it did. I then double switch into my Celebi because, again, I know that it can survive a Earthquake all day, and he's taking just such massive damage from that Toxic that he's just forced to die at this point. He goes into the Galvantula, and it really sucks because I'm not wanting to take too much damage from a Bug move. A Bug is, quad effective against the Celebi, so I go into the Blissey to scout. He goes for the Bug move. Blissey takes nothing. Now, the shitty part is that I'm able to get that status onto the Mega Lopunny. And it's good. And then I go for the switch into my Excadrill because I'm thinking, well, he's going to have to go for a return. And he does, and it does about a third, and that's really good for me. Now, I know he's going to go for a fighting move. I'm just hoping to live it, but I don't, and that's pretty shitty. So I'm then forced to switch into my Medicham, which is, again, my answer, because I'm thinking, Fake Out, it's going to get the damage. So I go for the Fake Out, and he switches into Starmie. Starmie takes a hit and dies, which is still pretty good. I'm not really comfortable with that matchup again because of the psychic and the bug thing, so I go into Blissey, takes a Thunder, Blissey lives, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now, I'm seeing that Blissey took about 17% at this point, so I know after leftovers, Blissey will live, so I'm pretty happy with just going for a soft boiled. And she gets paralyzed, but again, I don't care. Natural Cure is going to take care of that all day. So he takes back his Galvantula. I just go for the Seismic Toss to get the damage on Shaman, whatever. Now, I know that the Shaman has the Synthesis. At this point, I've seen the Seed Flare, so he just keeps going for Seed Flare, and I'm pretty happy that he's not connecting, because it lets me try and get the Toxic out. Seed Flare, and I'm paralyzed. Seed Flare misses, I get paralyzed, I can't get the Toxic out, so I keep clicking Toxic. I'm like, if I can get that Toxic out, I can just stall, I'm happy. Seed Flare finally collects, but so does Toxic, so he's taking the Toxic damage. And I know I've got Protect at this point, so Protect is going to be able to, combined with the Soft Boil, to just live until it dies. Then he goes for Healing Wish. And I'm thinking, I don't know what Healing Wish does. But what it turns out what it does is pretty fucking bad for my team. So, he Healing Wishes, I get paralyzed, I'm thinking, well, whatever. And he Healing Wishes the Megalopony, removing the status and getting it back to full health. So I'm like, well, fuck. I've got to switch out at this point, because if I don't, I know that I'm not going to get that status off. He can go for a fighting move, and I will just die. So I go for the Mega Slowbro. I'm just praying at this point it will live. And yeah, the CV drop, whatever. He goes to the Fake Out, and it sadly does kill me, which puts me in a really shitty position. I go into the Metachamp thinking, Fake Out. Fake Out's going to at least get the chip damage and get maybe about a quarter down. And he goes for Protect. So I'm fucked. He goes for Protect. I go for a Bullet Punch. It's my only thing that I know is going to outspeed him. So I go for the priority of the Bullet Punch. And it connects. It does a good amount of damage. And then I eat the Return, and I die. So I go into Celebi, and I'm praying at this point, just let me get a move off. And he goes into Galvantula. I get the Leaf Storm off, which is really nice. Even resisted, it gets the kill. I was kind of hoping for it to connect with the Megalopony, but he outsmarts me and switches. I eat the Return, and I die. And it's really shitty. So I go into Blissey, and I know at this point I'm almost definitely dead. So he goes for Return, I take massive damage. I'm just thinking, I need to get that status off. Maybe he'll think he's got to go for the fighting move, and I can just protect and maybe it'll miss. But at this point, the battle is pretty sealed, and there is nothing that I can do to win. The only thing I'm praying for is, a miss, but again, it's Return, so nothing. I'm thinking a double Protect doesn't do it. I die. And that was week 1, the San Antonio Shamans victorious over the Ontario Almastars. But I'll tell you, we put up a good fight, and we will be back for week 2 with an even better fight. This has been Vampire 218. Please don't forget to like, share, favorite, comment, and subscribe.